Tell me this. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air shift before you even spoke? No shouting, no grand entrance, just presence. That's not luck. That's mindset. That's control. And tonight, I'll teach you how to think like a man who doesn't ask for power, he takes it. Listen carefully, because this lesson isn't about money, fame, or appearance. It's about how to think in a world that tries to break your focus, question your silence, and make you doubt your purpose. By the end of this conversation, you'll understand how to walk into any room and own it without saying a word. See, most people think power comes from talking, from convincing, but real power comes from what happens before you speak. It's the discipline behind your words, the control behind your emotions, and the precision behind your silence. Every man wants to be respected, but few understand the price. Respect isn't given, it's felt. And to make people feel your presence, you must master your mind. You must think like a strategist, not a spectator. When I was young, I learned that emotion is the enemy of control. People who react lose. People who observe win. Because the one who stays calm while everyone else panics holds the advantage.
In war, chaos blinds men. In business, greed does. In life, emotion does. But a man who can keep his head clear when the world burns around him, he becomes untouchable. That's why I never rush, never over-explain, never show all my cards. Because while they waste time trying to figure me out, I'm already 3 moves ahead. Understand this. The mind is a weapon. Every thought you think, every emotion you entertain, either sharpens or dulls that weapon. You can't lead others until you master yourself. And mastering yourself begins with thinking differently. Stop asking, "What will they think?" Start asking, "What will this achieve?" Stop reacting to emotion. Start calculating outcomes. Because when you think with clarity, you move with power. The weak man reacts, the strong man plans, and the dangerous man, he watches in silence until the time to strike. Thinking like Thomas Shelby isn't about pretending to be cold, it's about being composed. It's about seeing every problem as a chessboard, not a battlefield. You don't panic when the game changes. You adapt. You anticipate. You move unseen. Most men fail because they think too loud. They panic, overthink, overreact. They talk so much they drown in their own noise. But silence is strategy. When you say less, you force others to fill the gaps. And in those gaps, they reveal themselves.
That's how you win without confrontation. You make people underestimate you. You let them think they know what you're doing until it's too late. In my world, I learned something simple. Control isn't about dominance. It's about patience. You let others move first, show their hand, reveal their weakness. Then you move with precision. One strike, no second chances. But to think like that, to think like me, you must learn to detach. Detach from emotion, detach from chaos, detach from the need to be understood. Because the man who is addicted to validation will always be controlled by others. But the man who thinks independently, acts quietly, and plans relentlessly, he becomes his own master. You want to know how to think like Thomas Shelby? You start by becoming comfortable in silence, because silence isn't empty, it's loaded with intention. Every quiet moment is a moment to plan, to observe, to adapt. Most people speak to feel important. You watch to stay powerful. The next time you're in a room, don't rush to talk. Watch, listen, feel the rhythm of the space. People reveal everything when you say nothing. Their tone, their posture, their fear. And once you understand what they fear, you control them. That's the secret. Power doesn't shout, it whispers. So think like a man who already knows the outcome. Think with clarity, move with purpose, and speak only when your words shift the ground beneath their feet. That's how you gain control without force, without noise, without effort. Because the moment your mind becomes still, the world starts to move in your direction.
This is the first step, the foundation, the way of thinking that separates the average from the feared. In the next part, I'll show you how to turn that mindset into action, how to walk into any room, face anyone, and command respect without a single word. But before we go there, if you felt the power of this message, don't just watch, act. Drop a comment below. What's one change you'll make starting today? And if you want more lessons like this, like, share, and subscribe, because the next lesson may just change how you see the world forever.
There's a moment before power is recognized. It's quiet, unseen. The calm before dominance takes the room. That's where the real control begins, not in words, but in energy, in how you stand, how you look, how you breathe. Every room you walk into is a battlefield of unspoken hierarchies. Some fight for attention, some hide in the corners, but a few, the rare few, don't need to speak to be noticed. They command the air itself. That's how Thomas Shelby thinks. He doesn't rush to prove. He makes people wait to understand. He controls not by aggression, but by rhythm. Because when you slow down, the world bends to your pace. You ever notice how the loudest ones always want to be seen? They laugh too hard, talk too much, fill every silence with noise. That's weakness disguised as confidence, because true confidence doesn't perform. It exists. Thinking, like Tommy, means mastering the art of restraint. You don't chase validation, you create gravity. People come closer because they want to understand your mystery, and mystery is power. But mystery isn't about pretending to be something you're not. It's about knowing what to withhold. You don't reveal your plans, you reveal results. You don't announce your moves, you make people feel their impact. That's how you make silence heavy. That's how you make presence felt.
When you think like that, every move becomes intentional. Every gesture, every pause, every glance, it all speaks louder than words ever could. You tilt your head slightly. You hold eye contact 1 second longer than expected. You move slow when everyone else is frantic. Because the man who moves slow in chaos, he's the one who's already won. Understand this. Thinking like Thomas Shelby isn't about arrogance. It's about self-possession. It's about knowing that emotion is a tool, not a master. You can be angry, but you don't let anger speak. You can be afraid, but you don't let fear move. You choose your reactions the way a sniper chooses his targets, carefully, deliberately, fatally. That's why Thomas Shelby doesn't talk when insulted. He smirks. He lets silence do the killing. Because silence forces reflection, and in that reflection, your enemies begin to crumble under their own insecurity. You see, the man who can't be provoked controls every outcome, because nothing scares the world more than a man who cannot be emotionally manipulated. The moment you stop reacting, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. Let them talk. Let them gossip. Let them think they know your next move. While they waste breath, you're calculating, 10 moves ahead, quietly loading your next victory. And when the time comes, you strike once, clean, without warning. That's not luck. That's thinking like a wolf in a room full of sheep. Tommy once said, "I don't pay for suits. My suits are on the house, or the house burns down." That's not ego. That's psychology. It's dominance framed in calm certainty. It's the belief that nothing is out of your control, because control begins in your mind. If you believe you are powerful, the world begins to treat you that way. But if you doubt yourself, even for a second, the world senses it and devours you. Thinking like Thomas Shelby means thinking from a position of power, always. Even when you're losing, you move like you're winning. Even when you're outnumbered, you think like you're in command. Because the mind dictates the body, and the body dictates perception. Straight back, steady breath, cold eyes, no unnecessary movement. Every second you hold composure, you're training the world to recognize your value.
Most men crumble because they try to prove they're powerful. But power doesn't prove, it projects. You don't need to say, "I'm in control." You show it in how you speak less, move less, and yet make everyone adjust to your presence. And here's the truth. If you think like a man who commands, the room eventually obeys, not out of fear, out of respect, because people can sense certainty, and certainty is magnetic. So the next time you enter a room, don't talk first. Observe. Scan the energy. Notice who's fidgeting, who's posturing, who's watching. Say less. Move slow, breathe steady, and let your energy speak louder than their noise. That's how Thomas Shelby thinks. Calculated, strategic, inevitable. You don't control the room by demanding attention. You control it by earning stillness. Because when a man who doesn't need validation walks in, everyone else starts to question their own. Now that you know how Thomas Shelby thinks, the question is, can you think like that in your own life? Can you stay composed under pressure? Can you stop reacting and start orchestrating? Can you hold silence until it breaks the weak ones apart? That's your challenge. Start today. Be deliberate in thought, patient in movement, and dangerous in silence. Because the world belongs to the man who doesn't flinch. And if you're ready to become that man, like, share, and subscribe. Because this isn't just another motivational speech. It's a way of life, a code. And as Thomas Shelby would say, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you take.